The comment section owes us an apology headed into NFL Week 10. Those barking dogs swept, and those best bets should have. But a guy named CJ Stroud got knocked out in the second quarter, and somehow the Denver Broncos won that football game. We're back this week with more barking dogs. The steam room is the Deli back open because it has been red hot as well. And of course, more of those best bets up next on Bet On It NFL. All right, we're going to get right into it with some of the primetime games, and this one is rather intriguing. So I got my odds logic screen open, and I keep waiting to see that elusive 8.5 at the book that I love to bet the teasers on, Marco. Thursday Night Football, the Las Vegas Raiders are headed to Denver, total 41.5. Talk to me about this Raiders team. You were high on them last week. They did get the cover for you, but Pete Carroll decided he wasn't going to play for that tie.
No, when you got the record that the Raiders have, you can't possibly play for the tie. You got to go for it. It was the right decision. And I would have loved to have them win outright because, the comment section, Kelly, as you said, we got a lot of them last week. And this was one of the games that I got a lot of comments because I said I was going to take the Raiders. And if you remember, I said Geno Smith was going to have his best game of the season. He threw 4 touchdown passes in that game last week. They had 2 weeks to prepare for that game. They were coming off the bye week and coming off the most embarrassing loss that you could have. They lost 31-0 to Kansas City going into that bye game. That game could have been 50-0. Kansas City stopped attacking in the second half, to be totally honest with you. Andy Reid did not want to embarrass Pete Carroll in that game. He literally was taking a knee with 4 minutes to play in the game, not to score. But they did what they had to do last week. They had a good showing. And why Jacksonville to be a favorite on the road, even though they were coming off a bye week too, I just couldn't buy it. But now you come back on a short week. Okay, you gave your big effort and you came up short once again. This is a team that the season is lost for the Raiders. And if they already didn't see that reality, they saw it yesterday when they traded away at the trade deadline their second best offensive player in Jacoby Myers. Okay, where are they going to get the point production on this offense? Ashton Genty, I think is a bust as a 6th round pick. They went too high for him. Also, the best player they got is Brock Bowers. And now he's going to be double teamed every pass attempt because they got no other threat. I can't look at the Raiders, but I'm not going to lay the points with Denver either because Denver's in a spot here. They're playing their 3rd game in 11 days. They're laying a big number, and Bo Nix has not been lighting it up. Definitely a sophomore jinx for Bo Nix. Denver did hold Houston to 5 field goals last week, but it was some really bad play calling and the fact that CJ Stroud got knocked out of the game in the second quarter. Given that it is the short week, and as I said, the schedule that Denver's just come off of with all of the travel, I'm going to look to the total. This is a classic game. We said the same thing with Denver a couple weeks ago when they played in that London game. They want to get in and get out. And how you do that is you run the football. Shorten the game and not expose Bo Nix to making mistakes. They shouldn't have to throw the football much in this game against the Raiders to get enough to win. I'm going to take the under in this game. I just don't see either team getting enough points. Denver has scored 28 or fewer points in 7 of their 9 games this year. And in 5 of those 7, it was 20 points or less. And I sure as heck don't see the Raiders scoring points on this Denver defense. So for me, Thursday Night Football could be a snooze fest, but that's okay if you got the under. We cashed an under last week on Thursday Night Football. Let's get another one this week. Take under in the Denver Raider game.
Yeah, I feel like those Thursday night football games have been more snooze fest, at least than offensive powerhouses. Let's go over to Sunday Night Football, VR. This is a game that I couldn't quite figure out other than from a teaser standpoint. Pittsburgh catching 2.5 at the Los Angeles Chargers, total 44.5.
Yeah, and if it goes to 2.5 across the board, you definitely want to look to tease the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a nice teaser opportunity, especially since we've seen a little under money come in off that 46.5 look ahead. Also, the look ahead was 4.5. Went to 3.5. That got hit as well. Picked off some of the threes. That's why a lot of 2.5s are on the board. So Steelers got some steam, and I'm going to tell you why. I using the Steelers for the TV bet. I haven't released it to subscribers. I haven't gotten to the window with it. I didn't get the 4. So I got to think whether I'm going to get there with the 3. Here's the bottom line. These two teams are extremely comparable. That's why it's a dog or pass situation. Other than the home field advantage for the Chargers, which don't really have one, and even this year don't really have one. They've won 3 of 4 games on the road. They're 3-2 at home. In fact, their win percentage is better on the road. So as far as home field advantage is, what are you going to give them? 1.5 points? So anything a field goal or better look to be the value side with the Steelers. And again, here's why. Strength of schedule, Steelers has had this tougher strength of schedule. In fact, the Chargers had the 29th toughest schedule to date. One of the reasons I bet over season wins for the Chargers and a future on them. And they've got the 17th most efficient offense and the 11th most efficient defense. Now, that's with the 29th toughest schedule. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the weak side of the football for them has been defense. They're barely a top 20 defensive team. With that said, they're now going up against an offense where that's not the strength of the Chargers, and they've had a weak strength of schedule. So if anything, this is a week where you're going to see the Steelers defense look better than they have in weeks past. And then when I get to the offensive side of the ball, I give the nod to the Steelers. Efficient-wise, they're a couple slots ahead of the Chargers. Back to my conclusion that this is as close to a coin flip type of game as you're going to get. You look at these two teams record-wise, they're comparable. Point differential, they're comparable. Their efficiency on both sides of the ball, they're comparable with a couple edges on the Pittsburgh side and strength of schedule edge to the Steelers. Once again, if you could get points in what looks like a coin flip, it's like getting plus money on a coin flip. You got to take it. So right now I'm looking at dog or pass, but I've been getting really good information on these primetime games. I think I'm like 9-2 on the last 11, and we swept Monday Night Football. So got to wait for confirmation. That's why I haven't gotten to the window, and I want to make sure I make that disclaimer, because if you find me on Pittsburgh come Sunday night, I don't want to on the Chargers or something like that. I don't want anyone pissed. But if the game was going off the night and I had to bet it, I'd be on the Steelers.
All right, well, that's why they can tune in to either Last Call on Sundays with you and Ariel or to the Steam Room NFL edition, noon Eastern before kickoff on Sundays, and hang out. Remember, those insiders do get special privileges here and there to those Steam Rooms in addition to your premium clients. All right, Monday Night Football. This is kind of a weird line. I'm not going to lie to you. Looking at Philadelphia catching 2.5. We might see some threes popping up here on the odds logic screen come kickoff. And I understand why people like Green Bay in this spot. I really do. Them coming off that wonky loss. Shout out Marco for calling that one and keeping me off Green Bay there in at least the survivor pools. Woo, that would have been ugly. That being said, Green Bay has just been terrible in those spots. As big favorites this season, they're 0-5 against the spread when laying more than 6 points. Now, of course, this is a tighter range than that one is. And Green Bay started off the season red hot, right? Beating Detroit right there out of the gate and basically kind of running the table. Everybody thought, hey, this is a Packers team that has a shot to win the Super Bowl. But since then, they're 1-6 against the spread. Now they're without one of their best weapons in Tucker Kraft, who tore his ACL. Speaking of weapons, it looks like A.J. Brown will be coming back for the Eagles. Keep an eye on Saquon Barkley. He is listed as questionable as we are filming the show here on Wednesday afternoon. I think this Philadelphia team knows that they're underdogs. Why? Because not only are they 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 tries as underdogs, they're 5-0 straight up. They want to win against teams that maybe are superior, at least as a point spread ranking. But I don't think this Green Bay team is superior. I think these two teams are neck and neck. How much home field is an advantage in Lambeau? Well, of course, it's Lambeau. It's freezing cold. The place is rocking, but not more than anywhere else. So as far as the Eagles catching 2.5, I have to use them in a teaser here with this lower total of 44.5. It looks like it. Marco said before we hit record, this looks like the easiest teaser all week. Fine. Then I'm going to take the easiest teaser of the week. VR, give everybody a little excerpt of what they may see on the Steam Room. I know you go into it a lot more in depth on Sundays, but as it stands on Wednesday afternoon, you guys have already fired on a few things. Let's hear what they are.
Yeah, even released premiums out to subscribers, and that's what we do in the Steam Room. We go through each and every NFL game, top to bottom. I share sides, total, any player props I have. Been giving out a lot of player prop in there as well because I can't use them for subscribers because as they come in, they're time sensitive. Lines move a little bit too quickly on some of those. There to answer all your questions, any games that you have, Survivor contest questions I get, teaser questions I get. We also put those plus CB teasers together towards the end of our hour. And yeah, I'm there working for you and more importantly, accountable to my subscribers where we go over our results and talk about risk management. So far, it's been celebratory results, especially in football. Now, here's some of the moves that I've already seen in accounts that I work with. NFL, start off with 253. Cleveland, we'll jump right into Sunday. +2, +1, -1.5. That's why the favors flip. But I'll tell you this, when it got as high as 2.5, they didn't even wait for 3. That's when you saw money come in on the Jets. Again, I keep stressing it shows you just how tight these NFL lines. And I do not like reading in the comments, oh, what's this Steam report for? You're telling us lines that move. Every single game line moves. I don't think there's a single game where you're not going to get a line move. I'm here to clarify what the line move represents. Is it public money? Is it sharp money? Is it the books adjusting based on information? That's what you got to be digging into. And more importantly, you take this information, then you follow your odds logic screen and you see, is what A's saying confirmed or am I now seeing a change and resistance in the market? That's when you have to put in your work. That's why this information is priceless and valuable. If you just look at it like, oh, that line moved, I can't use it. Again, don't be square. Don't do that. Move on to 256, Carolina, minus the 4, -4.5 in Carolina, and the under 42.5. That was the look ahead. They bet the 42 as well. That stuck out. 259, Jacksonville. They wiped out the key number of +3 and then hit the 2.5 as well. Sprinkled the money line and steamed that game under the look ahead of 41.5. Then went under even 39.5 when they adjusted. So under steam on the Jacksonville games, legit. Baltimore and Minnesota. See, this is where you want to pay attention. Are they going to come back? Is this just getting out ahead of the public based on some recency bias of teams that put up a lot of points? Because they went and bet the over 46.5, 47, and 48 in the Baltimore-Minnesota game. 272 Rams, -3 and 3.5 off that key number because -3 was the look ahead. So that's what you got to pay attention to. Is it the look ahead which got hit? Because those limits are small. And then the books get a chance to adjust. Or after the adjustment, did it get hit again? That's what happened with the Rams. 273 Pittsburgh, which I touched on, +4.5, +3.5, and the under 46.5, 45.5. And when it got to 44.5, that's when you started seeing over money in sharp accounts. So again, difference of opinion on the total once it moved significantly. And finally, they took the 3 with Philly on Monday night. Not a surprise. Key number. Looks like public money is starting to side a little bit more with Philly. Again, it's way too early. But you're not getting, one-sided Green Bay money. So I wasn't surprised they came off that key 3 already. We will touch up on this again on Last Call Sunday, and more importantly, in the Steam Room with detail. Best of luck, whether you follow or fade. I just hope you make some money off the information.
That is the plan. We love making money, and starts with those barking underdogs, which we swept on last week. Crazy because Marco gave out the Panthers, and VR gave out the Vikings.
Yeah,
The biggest underdogs in the board.
Tell me how I don't watch football, how I don't know anything about football. Go ahead. Just because I don't sit there like a fanboy and jerk off the wide receiver stats for my same game parlay doesn't mean I don't pay attention. Forgive me, but you just got to tell it how it is. I pay attention to what matters. What matters about cashing tickets, not cheering in some jersey number. That's what I care about, cashing tickets. Numbers don't
nobody cares about your fantasy football team.
Look at the results of the premiums. That's the bottom line. So if you're going to pick on me, on Kelly or Marco, you better bring receipts, not just tell me about my bad pick.
Woo! All right. Well, if you guys want to bring some more receipts, I thought the comment section was rather funny last week. Marco's back on his meds, though, this week. He picked a much smaller underdog to win the game outright because picking Carolina was wild, but a great call by you, especially there in Lambeau. So this week, you're looking at another one, and I think this one's really interesting. I was on Arizona on Monday Night Football in a couple of my contests, and then I teased the crap out of a Marco because I thought, and then I posted for my friends at Pickett Sports how lopsided the game was, and I was like, well, no Kyler, nobody wants to get involved. Does it matter if Kyler Murray's the quarterback of this football team or not?
No, Kelly, and the thing is, and we talked about it in a couple games last week, when you have a backup quarterback, if he's the polar opposite of the starting quarterback, that's when you got to be concerned. And we talked about Baltimore when Lamar Jackson was out and they had Cooper Rush as the quarterback. That's the polar opposite of him. But whenever they went to Tyler Huntley, that's the same style of quarterback. He's not as good as Lamar Jackson, obviously, but you don't have to change the game plan. Same thing goes with Arizona when you go from Kyler Murray to Jacoby Brissett. And he did what he needed to do in that game. Now, granted, before we get too excited about it, it was against the Dallas defense, which every quarterback's going to look better than they are when they face Dallas. But I'm looking at this from the Seattle side of this game. Can the stock be any higher right now than it is on the Seattle Seahawks? Everybody saw them on Sunday Night Football absolutely destroy Washington 38-14. And remember, coming into the season, Washington was a lot of people's darling because of what they did last year with a rookie quarterback, making that run in the playoffs, beating the Lions, and giving Philadelphia fits for as long as they did before they lost. This was a team that had high expectations coming into the season, and Seattle absolutely dismantled them. Now, Jaden Daniels got hurt, but it was late in the game, and why he was still in the game, when he was in the game, when he had been banged up all year, and the game was out of hand is another topic for another day. But I'm looking at this, and to me, it's a sandwich spot. Seattle was on Sunday Night Football. Not often that they are a marquee team, and they had a very satisfying win. Now, you're going to say, but Marco, this is a division game. You don't look past the division opponent. No, you don't. But you got two things here. They already beat Arizona in Arizona. So it's kind of easy to look past the team you already beat. But look who they play next. They play the Rams. And the Rams are the team. That game next week will be for first place. So you can't help but look ahead to that one. And, looking at the fact, as I said, they already beat Arizona. One of the angles I like in the NFL is I like taking an NFL road dog in the second meeting if they lost the first meeting at home. You're going to get an inflated line with them because Vegas knows the public's going to look at the game and say, well, if they could beat them in Arizona, they sure as heck can beat them in Seattle. So you're going to get a little bit of value taking that road dog. Jacoby Brissett was clean last week, 21-31, 221 yards, 2 TDs. But here's the key. Arizona's 3-5 this year. All 5 losses, combined 13 points. I'm going to go ahead and take Arizona to keep another one close and find a way at the end to win this one. Let's call it Arizona 24-23. Take the points, take a little sprinkle.
All right, VR. Last week, Marco's barking dog kept me off of a survivor play, and I'm a little concerned about the barking dog this week, right? I had Carolina circled way back when, so I do a spreadsheet throughout the whole season. I've had Carolina slated for this spot. And now I'm having some second thoughts because they did beat the Packers outright, and now they are playing the lowly New Orleans Saints, but this still is a divisional game.
Yeah, and let's not forget, I just gave out a steam report that told you Carolina got steamed multiple times. I'm fading the wise guys. I'm doing it again. I did it last week with Minnesota. I've worked and moved these games long enough. I see this exact move over and over and over again. They do it automatically. You have the rookie QB on the road, and the market overreacts and downgrade it a little bit too much, and that's what's happening here. Dude, you're looking at a Carolina team that has one quality win. That's it. Forget the Green Bay. I don't care about that because they were 2 touchdown dogs, and if they played that game 3 hours later, they probably would have lost by 3 touchdowns. That's the randomness of a 60-minute football game. Otherwise, they got blown out by Buffalo. They got blown out by New England, and the wins they had were against the Jets, Dallas, and Miami, all by 1 score. So there's a ton of randomness involved. And rest assured, those teams probably played some of their worst ball that day. Their one good win was against the Atlanta Falcons back on September 21st when they were 5-point home dogs and they won the game 30-0. Okay? That was the big win for them. And for that to happen, Penix needed to throw 2 interceptions and lose a fumble. So they had to go -3 in turnover ratio, which you're not going to win many football games doing that for Carolina to get that W. Otherwise, I don't see anything there that scares me. More importantly, what happened after that good game? A team just like Carolina, which has 0 consistency, gets blown out by 30 points the following week. That's exactly what should happen this week after a big win against Green Bay. Not that they're going to get blown out by 30 points, but that they don't have the consistency of a team that should be able to follow that up and continue playing good. That we don't expect. And here's why. Carolina is one of the worst teams in the NFL. Now, granted, we know the Saints are. In fact, when I look at my power ratings, the Saints are the second worst team in the NFL. Only Tennessee would be an underdog to the Saints. Well, when I look across from the Saints, it's Carolina. There's only 3 teams that Carolina would be favored over. So they're the 3rd or 4th worst team in the NFL. And they're a 5-point 6-point, whatever they are, favorite. Makes absolutely no sense. If you look at what the betting line has been for this team the entire year, they've been dogs. Now you're putting them in the favorites role. And for the X's and O's guys, yeah, I know Rattler isn't the quarterback. I think that's a good thing because of the overreaction, the price. The kid's coming in from from Oregon, all right? Here's what he has to follow. You have a quarterback for the Saints in Rattler, whatever his name was, well below the average in the NFL for passing success rate. So I had him. He was the 24th in passing success rate in the NFL. The last 2 games he quarterbacked for the Saints, he had a 68.8 and a 66.6 QBR. He threw 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Where's the downgrade? If anything, I think the rest of the team knows we now have to show up because we're taking this rookie on the road, our 2nd-round draft pick, and we have to give some effort. And fortunately for them, it's a familiar opponent in Carolina that they're facing. If anything, this is exactly where the Saints need to be, on the road, even with this rookie quarterback. If anything, you're getting the pressure off of him that he's not in New Orleans. I like the Saints here. Carolina has no business being this big of a favorite. If they were 3, I would have had to consider still the Saints. But if I could take this up to 6 at -115 like we did, I'm all over the Saints. Give me the Saints, sprinkle the money line, live dog.
That is not what I wanted to hear, especially because I don't have a lot of better options available. All right.
Just wait till you hear my best bet.
Oh, boy. You're going to piss off the comment section again, VR?
With a winner.
With a winner. How can you guys be mad with a winner? Sneak
Exactly.
peek. Ooh, woof. Oh, I just looked. I just peeked ahead. Oh, God. People are going to get really mad at you for that one, especially after their performance on Sunday Night Football. All right. I'm going to take a team that just beat their divisional rival in a team versus a team that's trajectory is a lot higher. But should it be? Hey, Baltimore won a nice 22-point road win at Miami. Still a team named Miami last week. But Lamar Jackson, you could tell he was not fully healthy. And rightfully so. He's off a hamstring injury. I will say this is going to have extra time to prepare for that one. And if Lamar Jackson does what we've seen him capable of, he may find success. But I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to be able to spread the field just yet. And I think Minnesota has a really solid defense. You know who doesn't have a solid defense? Baltimore. I think J.J. McCarthy should be relatively comfortable against this Ravens defense. After all, his name is not Tua. Turn the ball over. VR mentioned in the steam room that the reason why this total is getting steamed, they're trying to get ahead of it. Of course they are. Minnesota's last 6 games have all gone on over the total. Baltimore's road games this year, 4-1 to the over. I think this is going to be an absolute and utter shootout. I do, however, think Minnesota is going to come away with a home win. This is their first time at home in almost 6 weeks. So look for those purple people eaters, not the Baltimore ones, but the Minnesota ones, to be real loud and excited there in Minneapolis. Marco D'Angelo, let's hear about these sandwiches because boy, oh boy, has the Deli been red hot. 4-1 again last week, 27-17 on the season. And boy, oh boy, I just realized you are also going to try to talk me off taking the Panthers as my survivor. Normally, I don't let these guys agree with each other. Like I make somebody pick and move things around, but apparently we really like the Saints this week.
Yeah, and Marco was first. I looked after I put it there. I always check. He was first. It's crazy for me. It makes me more happy.
All right, they're breaking the rules, but this is now double trouble for my survivor pick. Be right back while I'm going to go check the spreadsheet, Marco. Let's hear what the Deli's got to say.
All right, Kelly. And what you were referring to, that 27-17 record, is the bonus edition of the Deli. We do a video every Thursday. It'll come out where I have generally 5 more games that didn't make this show, and I break them down for you the way I do. So be sure to tune into that. It'll be a standalone video on Thursday. And of course, it is included in the mega show as well. You know what? With these games, we took a lot of heat last week with that Carolina play. And you know what? So many times it's going to put you on an ugly team. I understand that. But we're doing situations, okay? And you got to trust the process. And sometimes it's not actually the team we're taking, but we're going against the team that's in a very bad situation. Last week, it was Green Bay that was in the bad situation. They were coming off that satisfying win against the Steelers, where Jordan Love had his best game of the year against the teacher, so to speak, in Aaron Rodgers. Then they were playing lowly Carolina with them having a TV game on deck against Philadelphia on Monday Night Football. It was all about going against Green Bay last week. That's why we had Carolina. Well, for every reason we had going against Green Bay last week, all of those kind of apply this week to Carolina. They're coming off of a very satisfying win. They went to Lambeau Field and knocked off Green Bay. Now they're coming home to play the 1-8 Saints. How in the world do you get excited for the 1-8 Saints? You don't, even though it's a division game, because they're not a team that you think is going to be a problem in the division. Next week, they play Atlanta. Even though Atlanta is the 3rd best team in the division, they're better than New Orleans. It's something to look forward to. And actually, Atlanta's probably the 2nd best team. It's just that Carolina has a better record right now. This is a sandwich game. This is a trap game. Maybe more of a trap than a sandwich, because Carolina, they're fat and sassy after last week's win, and they're breaking one of the rules that I like to fade teams with. I don't like taking a dog that had a great game and now is a favorite. I like to go against those teams. And we talked about, VR mentioned them going to the rookie quarterback. Well, he actually played last week. He started last week, and that was good because he got that first game jitters off of, out of the way. He had a game where he went 15 of 24 for 176 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. It wasn't a great game, but it wasn't a bad game. But the difference is he went against a very good Rams defense on the road for his first start. The Rams are second in points allowed defensively, in 5th in yards per play allowed. If he survived the Rams defense, he's definitely going to survive the Carolina defense, which is bottom 3rd in yards per play allowed. Facing a softer defense and having that start under his belt, that tells me I think he's going to be more productive this week. Throw in the situation where Carolina's feeling fat and sassy. I think this is one of those games where it goes right down to the wire. We're talking about 5.5, and 5.5 is one of those numbers in the NFL that when I see it, it's less than a 6, it's more than the 3. Most people read those numbers, and when they're looking at it, they're saying, oh, okay, well, they're over a field goal. They're supposed to win this game, and I'm getting them under a touchdown. So all I got to do is win by a touchdown. Be careful. I love those 5.5 point underdogs. Let's go ahead and take the Saints in an ugly one. I'm going to call it Saints 17-16 for the sandwich game of the week.
Marco, you're so correct. Those 5.5 point underdogs. We saw it with the Jets that took out a bunch of Bengals. They took out my last circuit entry. All right, congrats, guys. You've successfully talked me off taking the Panthers and Survivor, and now I'm going to have to take, I have no idea who. All right, anyway, that being said, we're going to get right into those best bets. VR, you're up first. Go ahead and piss off the audience, but before you do, please let everybody know what you've got going on over at wagertalk.com.
All right. I'm not going to fire a 5% this week on the Sunday games, maybe on the Monday, but not on the Sundays because I really like this board and I don't want to just narrow down that one strong play. I've already released actually 2 4%. There's going to be a handful of those in the card for sure. Also, college football card is up already. I'm not going to throw 5 there either. These 4s have been crushing it. We're up over 130 units already. In college football, number 1 in profit, and already started college basketball, number 1. Working with the same groups in college basketball that I did college football. We're going to do the exact same thing. It's a great time to jump on board. The bowls will be coming up before you know it. NBA's here, NHL's here, MMA. There's so many sports. Easy to do damage. And again, make sure you join me for this weekend because got a lot going on in football. Now, we're going to come right back with a team that it looks like the sharp money is opposite, like last week, like the steam because of the adjustment, but nothing could be further from the truth. The adjustment is made based on the quarterback situation in Washington with Jaden Daniels. Here's why. When you look at the look-ahead line for Detroit and Washington, okay, the look-ahead was 4.5. That was already too high because it got steamed to 3.5. So already they were lining up on the Washington side. Then what happens? Daniels breaks an arm, confirmed out. We know who's the backup. They adjust the line 6 points to 9.5. You're looking at 9 right now because guys just like myself bought the 0.5 point up to 10 because you should be laying about 122, 124 for that 0.5 point instead of 120. And that's why I sent it out to subscribers immediately. You're looking at 9s right now, and don't be surprised if you get down to that 8.5. The only reason it hasn't gone to 8.5 everywhere is teaser protection against Detroit. They would fall under the Wong for sure, and they don't want to get middled with Detroit minus 2.5, Washington plus 9, 9.5, and 10. That's why it's sitting where it's sitting right now, and you can still get more points than you should. Here's the bottom line. Over the last 9 games, Jaden Daniels' QBR, 63.1. All right? That's what we need to go in there and replace. Now, I get it. His potential is a lot higher. His ceiling is a lot higher. but something has gone amiss down the stretch. He hasn't been healthy because over the first 5 games, my man had 0 interceptions, playing great ball, and that's what he does, protects the football very well. Over the last 4 games, 2 interceptions. That's not like him. So obviously, he wasn't on point, and that showed in his QBR. He had a 72.7 in his last game. I keep talking about Jaden Daniels and the QBR because that's what this line is based on, the replacement. And what I'm trying to explain is this is an over adjustment. That Jaden Daniels may be worth 6 points if the drop-off wasn't to Mariota. That's the key. And Mariota's being judged harshly for that one performance against Kansas City where they got blown out like 28-7, but he actually went 21 of 30 passing, threw a touchdown. It was 2 interceptions that cost him, and that is what he's being punished for here. But if you look over career, the drop-off isn't worth a touchdown. It just isn't. Very few quarterbacks are worth a touchdown to their backup, and especially someone with the experience, the NFL experience that this backup has. It's not a rookie QB behind him. So he's capable of playing a good game. And I think that's what you're going to get. Like you said, they're coming off, Kel, an ugly, ugly game on prime time. So we have recency bias working for us. We have Detroit, arguably the best team in the NFL, or top 2-3, coming off a loss. Most expect them to do what they did when they lost to Kansas City. They bounced back. They blew away Tampa Bay. That's not going to happen here. They're traveling on the road, and I think you're going to get a motivated Washington team to at least give you a lot of effort, having been blown out in back-to-back games. That was Seattle and Kansas City. If anything, that's going to prepare you for Detroit. I think we get a much better game out of Washington. I think they keep this a much closer than 9 points. And may want to sprinkle as well. It is the NFL. Stranger things have happened, like the Minnesota Vikings getting the W. So take the points, best bet, and we'll just keep cashing tickets in the NFL.
I know this isn't relevant, but because we didn't talk about the Colts game, but one of the funnier fights that we've seen over the last couple of weeks from the comment section was the Indianapolis mascot trolling Marco in the Wager Talk TikTok channel. I almost died. It was absolutely and utterly hilarious. And since Dan Alexander isn't paying attention, I'm going to put it on the screen.
I got to see it.
Look at it. He was laughing in the comment section at Marco's pick against Indianapolis. The funny part is Marco got to get his revenge from a fandom perspective last week. Now I screwed it all up. See, Dan, see what happens when you're doing other stuff and I get to run the controls. Marco D'Angelo, again, I know it wasn't relative, but I saw that graphic and I just lost it.
Yeah, that when he trolled me was a couple of weeks ago when I had the Chargers against the Colts. Yeah, and he come in with the bah ha ha ha. Yeah, well, the Steelers beat the Colts, and is the fandom. I'll take it. They really didn't deserve it. Don't get too excited about it. The 6 turnovers by the Colts last week helped the Steelers along, but yeah, it was funny, and Dan and John making that graphic of us fighting. That was pretty good.
AI is good for something. How about that? Yeah. Make it a fun graphic. If you guys have something to say to Marco or VR or myself, feel free to do so. We love all of the love or hate in the comment section. Guys, I need you to do me one more favor, though. Everybody get ready because we're going to wish Marco D'Angelo a very happy birthday in the comment section. You guys can be nice to him one time a year. So do that for me. And then Marco, let me know before you give us your best bet for NFL Week 10 what your birthday special is over at wagertalk.com.
Well, we've been doing this for a long time, Kelly. Every time it is my birthday week, we offer the week for my age. So definitely that's one plus of getting older. I get an extra $1 out of everybody every year, but it's still a value to you guys. The $49 Weekend Warrior package, that has been one of the most popular packages that we have. You can buy your favorite capper for the weekend for $49. You'll get all of their college football, all of their NFL, And if they've got a Monday night play, it's included free. No brainer on that. Well, how about getting every play for 7 days for $15 more? That's what happens this week. If you buy my birthday bash for me, you can get all of my plays 7 days from the day you sign up for $64. You guys, we are on a roll right now, rolling into my birthday on an 11-2 run since last Thursday, which has resulted in a profit for our clients of over $2,500. And we nailed another 5% play last week. We had Texas Tech over Kansas State, that 43-20 win. That brings the record to 35-16 on those 5% plays. Why am I talking about the 5%? Because they sell for $35 by themselves, and you're going to get one this week with the 7-day package. So that's half of the subscription right there. Sign up, head on over to wagertalk.com and join me for the birthday week as we continue to celebrate with winners. And speaking of winners, we're going to look at the same game that VR did, only a different way. And we both can win this one. And I hope Ace is right with his Washington play, because that means Washington's going to be scoring points. And as I talked about in previous play, you got Marcus Mariota. He is the same type of quarterback as Daniels. So whenever they go to him, it's not changing the offensive game plan. All it does is make Marcus Mariota get all the snaps this week for an offense he's already going to know how to run. So I look for Washington to score points, but I'm not going with Washington. What I'm going with is a team total on the Detroit Lions. Why? Because Detroit's going to come in here with the pedal to the metal. They lost the game last week that probably they shouldn't. They got caught looking ahead, in my opinion. Even though Minnesota was a division game, Minnesota's not playing good. Minnesota had their starting quarterback, knocked out before. Then it was Carson Wentz. Then he got knocked out. And then we didn't know last week, midweek, for sure who was going to start for Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy was later announced in the week that he was going to play, but you didn't know how he was going to play coming off the injury. Well, he played well, and Minnesota got their revenge. Remember that game at the end of the season last year that was for the division title? Well, let's go ahead and look at Detroit in revenge this week. It was Washington that knocked them out of the playoffs last year. And you've got an angry Detroit team coming off a rare loss at home. What's Dan Campbell's, trademark? He likes to be a bully. Whenever he gets a team that he can get a lead on, he never takes his foot off the gas. He keeps pushing downfield. And I think they're going to score points in this game. Why? Because the Washington defense is not good. Detroit, last 3 games, I realize they've been held to 17, 24, and 24. That's way under their team total for this game of 29.5. But I also got to point out those 3 teams that held them to those totals was Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota. Check the stats. Those are all good defensive teams overall. They're not facing one of those good defensive teams here. Washington has given up 44, 28, and 38 in the last 3 games. I look for this one to be both teams going up and down the field, but I'm going to go ahead and take Detroit team total rather than the whole over for the game, which I also like as well. But I like Detroit team total over 29.5. I think they get into the 30s easily in this one as they get their little revenge. And as Dan Campbell likes to do, he likes to be the bully and send a message. Remember that Chicago Bears game early in the year when he just kept passing in the fourth quarter against his former assistant coach? Yeah, and they were coming off a loss in that one too. Let's go over team total Detroit for our best bet.
All right, and for my best bet, we're going with another short home favorite. Baker Mayfield, please stay healthy for this one. I'm going to knock on some wood behind me because that was not fun last week. CJ Stroud getting knocked out there in the second quarter and costing us a 5-0 in the prestigious Westgate Super Contest. This week, we're going to take another short home favorite, and we're going against one of the hottest teams in the NFL. That's right, the New England Patriots. Drake May, MVP, anyone, right? 314 total yards last week. That was 259 passing by Drake, 2 touchdowns. And boy, oh boy, did that defense do its job. But Atlanta got the cover for us. Patriots still sacked 6 times. What is this Bucs defense going to do there? And this is a Bucs defense that I think deserves a little bit more credit. They are going to be healthier. Speaking of health, shocker, look who might be back. Chris Godwin for Baker Mayfield, who actually should be the MVP. This is a Tampa Bay team that I really like here in this spot, coming off a bye. Sure, New England's covered 5 straight road games, but they're not playing the Tennessee Titans this week, boys and girls. They're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will say this. Did I tease the Patriots? I might have. But I like the Bucs here, laying 2.5 at home to get a nice win of, let's call it, a touchdown. Perfect scenario for both worlds. Speaking of perfect scenarios, the last 2 weeks of Bet On It have been damn near perfect scenarios for us here in college football and NFL. And if you guys got something to say about it, we want to hear from you. So shout out to Marco, shout out to VR, since you guys never give them enough thanks in the comment section. I'll do it for you. And if you guys are looking for that college football edition of Bet On It, it's right here. Of course, we've got the mega show. Don't forget to also check out Marco's Deli and the Steam Room on Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern.
Who's hungry? The deli's open. Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Marco's Deli, powered by wagertalk.com. We've been rolling on the show, guys. I hope you've been enjoying it. Another big week last week on the show. We went 4-1, and that brings the season record to 8 winning episodes, 2 losing episodes, and 1 break even, or 27-17 overall with all of our selections, including that 8-1 run for the season on the NFL play. Let's get to this week's show. 5 more big winners for you. I want to thank you guys for supporting the channel. It really helps it out when you guys give us that thumbs up or leave us a comment. It helps the algorithm for the channel, and we want as many people to benefit from Marco's Deli as possible. So again, thank you for helping us out with that. Let's get right into this week's show and start it off with Duke at Connecticut. Now, guys, we're taking a look at this one, and it's all about fading Duke in this one. They're coming off a shootout last Saturday where they upset Clemson, winning 46-45. Now, even though Clemson is having a down year, beating a perennial powerhouse, the class of the conference like Clemson has been for so many years, that's a huge deal for Duke. So clearly, we're going to put Duke on the fat and sassy alert situation coming off that big win. And if you take a look what Duke has on deck. Next week, they play number 14 Virginia, the top team in the conference this year in the ACC. So how does Duke not look past Connecticut? Well, it's going to be tough for them to do that. And I think this is a dangerous spot for them to be laying as many points as they're laying on the road. Yeah, Duke can score a ton of points. We know that. But the problem is, as fast as they score points, they can give them up that fast as well. And they're going to be laying 9.5 on the road to a UConn team that has scored 31 or more points in 7 of their 9 games this year. I think Connecticut is a very live dog here. I think this one's going to be another barn burner that goes right down to the wire, and that has me lining up to take Connecticut plus the points as play number 1. Play number 2 this week on the Deli, we're going to take a look at Nebraska at UCLA. Nebraska did everything last week except win the game. They played their guts out against USC. Now, normally I'd be coming on here and wanting to fade Nebraska off of a big game like that. That was a top 25 matchup against USC. and they came up just short. In fact, they led the game most of the way before losing at the end. Well, the reason I'm not going to use the lose the same game twice angle is they're traveling to UCLA. This is a big deal. Even though UCLA is having a down year, playing UCLA for the first time in the Big Ten on the road in their stadium is a big deal for Nebraska. And the other reason why I don't think they're going to have that hangover effect from last week is they lost their starting quarterback in the game last week. Dylan Raiola broke his leg last week and is gone for the season. That means we got the injured player theory. The rest of this team is going to be pumped up and play at a higher level to compensate for the loss of Raiola. And the quarterback that's going to take over, TJ Lateef, is a quarterback that's seen some action this year. He's gotten into 3 games, and he's completed 16 of 19 passes for 261 yards. So he's got a little bit of experience. He is a true freshman. He's a dual threat quarterback. They will have a game plan devised to his strengths, and he's got a whole week to get the first team reps. He'll be better prepared when he comes to start this game. The other added factor is he is from California. He went to high school in California, so this is a big deal for him to get his first collegiate start in California at UCLA in that historic stadium. I'm going to go ahead with Nebraska. They've got the better defense here. I like what this team has done all year. I'm going to take Nebraska. And, what's the final reason? Take a look who UCLA plays next week. That's right. They're coming off playing Indiana last week. Yeah, they got their doors blown off, but they played the top-ranked, or highly ranked, I should say, Indiana last week. Next week, they get the top-ranked team. They get Ohio State. You talk about a sandwich. Let's go ahead and take Nebraska as play number 2 here on the Deli. Play number 3, well, we're going to put the old trap alert out here for this one. San Diego State travels to Hawaii. Now, San Diego State has been the big surprise this year in the Mountain West Conference. Is coming into the season, everybody thought this was going to be a 2-horse race between Boise State and UNLV. And until a couple weeks ago, it was shaping up that way. But San Diego State has something else to say about that. They're 7-1 overall on the season and undefeated in conference play. But this is a dangerous spot for them, is San Diego State has to travel to Hawaii this week. That's always a tough assignment for the teams in the Mountain West Conference going to play at Hawaii. But the big reason why it's an added problem this year is look at who San Diego State plays next. That's right. They've got the showdown for the Mountain West Conference title next week when they play Boise State. They get Boise State in their stadium, and if they win that game, San Diego State will win the Mountain West Conference. That is a huge look-ahead spot, a huge trap situation for them here. I've got to go with the home dog here, Hawaii. Got to point out as well, San Diego State, this is going to be their 3rd road game in the last 4. A lot of travel for San Diego State, and heading to Hawaii, this is a problem spot for them. We're going to trust the system, or I should say the situation, and we're going to take Hawaii plus the points. Now, before we get into the last 2 plays on this week's Deli, I want to remind you guys that we've got a couple specials going on over at Wager Talk. As always, we've got that Weekend Warrior package, $49. That'll get you all of my football plays Saturday and Sunday, college and pro. And if I have a Monday night football play, you get that thrown in free as well. $49 for that package. I got a better deal for you. If you love the 2-day package for $49, how about I give you 7 days for just $15 more? Yep, this week it is my birthday, and every year we do it. I have my annual birthday bash week where you could pick up 7 days for the price of my birthday. Yep, we turned 64 today, actually on Thursday, and you can pick up the entire week, 7 days, not only of my football selections, but all of my plays, basketball, hockey as well. You get everything for 7 days for just $64. It also includes any 5% plays. Those 5% plays, they are 35 and 16 after we had our big winner last Saturday on Texas Tech. I'm going to have a 5% play again this weekend. And last 7 days, what have we done? Well, we're 11, 3, and 1 with all of our plays over the last 7 days. That's resulted in a profit of $2,243 over the week period. Just a $69 investment gets you 7 days of action for me. Head on over to wagertalk.com right now to check out that deal. Or if you want to go directly to my homepage at WagerTalk, just go to wt.buzz/MD. And guys, while we're here, once again, give us that thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. I appreciate it. Drop me a comment in the comment section. I love when you guys talk about the games. Tell me which games you like, which games you don't like, and shout out to where you're from. I like to hear where everybody's watching us from. So appreciate if you guys could help us out with that. And if you want to make sure you never miss a video from us, so hit the subscribe button. It's free, and it'll notify you every time there's a new video at Wager Talk TV. All right, guys, let's get to those last two winners. Let's keep this winning streak rolling along here on Marco's Deli. And we're going to take a look at Wake Forest at Virginia. Virginia, I think they're in a bad scheduling spot this week because they're returning home from a cross-country game last week playing at California. Now, guys, with this ACC schedule, having those two teams out on the West Coast, Stanford and California, it's just really silly when an East Coast team's got to go West Coast or a West Coast team's got to come East Coast. It takes its toll on these teams. So I think you've got Virginia coming back home in a bad spot this week. Want to look to fade them. Another reason I want to look to fade them is Virginia is the number 14 team in the country. They're undefeated in the ACC. This is a team that is favored by under a touchdown. Now we're seeing the line start to move to 7, but it had been sitting at 6.5 all week long. How do you have a team that's ranked 14th in the country playing a team that's unranked and is coming off getting blown out in their last game, 42-7, under a touchdown? What's even more suspicious about this game is the fact that Wake Forest last week was on the road at Florida State. They were plus 11.5 to Florida State. Florida State is just 4-4 on the season, 1-4 in the ACC, compared to Virginia, 8-1 overall and 5-0 in the ACC. How can Virginia be laying less? Well, either this is the biggest gift that the Vegas bookmakers are passing out, or it's a trap game. And I'm telling you, it's a trap game for Virginia. They're begging you to take Virginia in this one. I'm not falling for the trap. Virginia is not as good as their ranking. Wake Forest is not as bad as last week's performance against Florida State. And don't forget, when they went to play Florida State last week, they were coming off upsetting SMU the week before. Remember, SMU was a team that played in the ACC championship last year and was a team that played in the national playoffs last year. So that was a big win 2 weeks ago for Wake Forest. I look for them to return to that form this week and to give Virginia all they want in this one. I'm grabbing the points with Wake Forest for play number 4. And for the final play this week, we're heading to the NFL, 8-1 on the season with these plays here on the Deli. And we're going to take a look at the New York Giants at Chicago. Chicago is 5-1 in their last 6 games. But if you're a Bears fan, before you start running to order your playoff tickets, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Those 5 wins came against Dallas, the Raiders, Washington, New Orleans, in Cincinnati. All 5 of those teams have 2 things in common. They all have losing records, and they all have bad defenses. The Giants have lost 3 in a row. I get it. But look at who they played. They played Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. Those are 3 teams, all with winning records, 3 teams with very good defenses, and 3 teams that are going to make the playoffs most likely. I think Chicago is overvalued here. I think they're actually kind of counterfeit, in my opinion. Caleb Williams is still too inconsistent for me, and that defense is just not good. Chicago was in that crazy game last week, 47-42, and people are going to just knee-jerk reaction and say, hey, man, look, they put up 47 points last week. The Giants aren't going to be able to keep up. No, I'm not buying that. I can't lay points with a defense like this, as bad as Chicago's has been. And take a look at who they play next week. Chicago plays division rival Minnesota. This is just a horrible spot for Chicago, returning home, laying a number, and they're laying one of those numbers in the NFL where you're in that no man's land, where you're looking at 4.5 to 5.5 home favorite. It's over the field goal, but it's under the touchdown. Most people look at that when you see those numbers, that 4.5, 5, and 5.5, and they want to gravitate to the favorite. I found more often than not, the dog is live in that price range because it looks too easy. You're saying, hey, they're over a field goal. They're supposed to win, but it's under a touchdown. I don't have to score a touchdown to win this one. Yeah, we're going to go ahead, take the New York Giants plus the points for play number 5. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's Marco's Deli. I enjoy doing these videos for you guys. I love sharing what I've learned over 4.5 decades in this business. Let's cash some more tickets this week. And if you want to join me for my premium plays, head on over to wagertalk.com. Grab that 7-day birthday bash package, just $64. Get every play I have, including that big 5% play that we've got going this week. Hopefully it'll be as easy as last week's 43-20 blowout winner on Texas Tech -7 last week. And remember, those games sell for $35 by themselves. You can pick up 7 full days for just $64. Until next week, guys, good luck, and let's cash some tickets. See you next week.
Let's talk about the 5-4 Carolina Panthers, a team that's only, a half game out of a playoff spot right now, behind the Lions of all teams, and coming off a huge upset win in Green Bay at Lambeau Field against the Packers. What are we going to do with Carolina? You know what we're going to do. We're going to sell this team at 5-4 right now. Why? Because they're not that good. Yes, Carolina has notched 4 victories this season at an underdog price. Obviously, plus 13.5 against Green Bay last week was the single biggest upset of the season so far. They beat Dallas, a 3-point dog. They were 1-point dogs in Miami, or against Miami when they beat them. And of course, they were against Atlanta. They were 5-point dogs in a game they won 30-0. Of course, that's the only game that Carolina has won by any kind of a margin so far this season. 3 of their 5 victories have come by exactly a field goal. The 4th came by a single touchdown. And make no mistake about it, even though they're 5-4, their physical profile tells us this is another losing season for Carolina right now. We look at them on the offensive side of the football, yards per play basis. Yeah, they rank number 29th in the NFL. You look at Bryce Young's numbers so far this season, and Bryce Young's numbers, might call them ugly, but they're certainly not good. 61% completions, 173 passing yards per game, an 11-6 TD to interception ratio. You know, you had the one bad Andy Dalton game. I get you. Where Dalton came in and got sacked a bunch of times. But it's not like Bryce Young has answered any questions thus far. So you say, oh, it's in the defense. The defense is carrying them. No, the defense hasn't been all that good either. Middle of the pack, 6.6 yards per play allowed. That's tied for 18th. They're right there with Las Vegas. I'll just put it like that. They're tied with Vegas. A little bit behind the Giants in a yards per play allowed on the defense. So this team isn't great on offense. They don't have a great quarterback. They're not great on defense. You know, Rico Dowdle's had a remarkable season so far, and they've won a bunch of close games. That's not a recipe for future success. Certainly not from a point spread standpoint, because all of a sudden we're starting to hear chirping about Carolina. I'm not buying it. Let's sell the Panthers right now off that win against the Packers and expect this team to struggle down the stretch.
I am Ralph Michaels. We are talking about NFL TNA. That's trends and angles. I'm going to finish this video with 3 80% NFL systems. Make sure you stay tuned. How do good teams do as a dog? And how do bad teams do as a favorite late in the NFL season? That is chart number 1. How do division teams do in their second matchup of the season? That is chart number 2. We'll finish it off with 4 super systems, including 3 at 80% or higher. Let's get to it. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the Wager Talk NFL TNA video for this week. Well, again, I appreciate all the comments. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing these videos. I love reading your suggestions on charts. And our second chart is from one of you viewers and your idea. Let's start off with bad teams as a favorite and good teams as a dog. Well, it's hard to quantify that early in the season because if you go 2-1, you may be 67%, but that doesn't mean you're a quality team. So once we get to game 9, we're into the second half of the season. I think that does quantify you as a good team if you have a win percentage of 60% or higher, and perhaps a struggling team if you have a win percentage of 40% or lower. I also wanted to knock off those 1 and 2 point lines. So first, let's take a look at the chart. And on the left-hand side, on the very top, you see teams that have a win percentage of 40% or less, yet they are a favorite of 3 or more from game number 9 throughout the regular season. The first thing that jumps out to me is take a look at the bottom, guys. When we have a bad team, meaning a win percentage of 40% or less, and they're a favorite of -3 or more, if they're playing at home, blindly, they're 45% against the spread. If they're playing on the road, blindly, they're 69% against the spread. And does that make sense? I think it does. Remember, if you're a bad team at home and you're a favorite of 3 or more, you could be close to a pick 'em. With a home field edge of 2.5 or 3, if you're a home favorite of 3 or more, you're basically pick 'em at home against an opponent that's hungry to win. But if you're an away favorite of 3 or more, you add in the home edge, and that means you're likely 6 points better than this opponent you're playing. So it makes perfect sense to me. It's so nice when you can do a chart like this and see the home away dichotomies, and they work out exactly what you should be. One quick note about those bad teams as a favorite of 3 or more. Take a look. Game number 9, they're 1 and 3. Game number 10, there haven't been any. Game number 12 and on, 2-1, 8-1, 2-0, 2-2, 4-1, 1-0. That means 14-2, 6, 18-4, 18-5, 23 and 5. For away favorites of 3 or more, the win percentage of 40% or less from game number 11 and on. Write that down and make sure it helps you the rest of the season. Let's take a look at the opposite side on the right-hand side of the chart. These are quality teams, a win percentage of 60% or higher from game number 9 and later, and they're a dog of 3 or more, like San Fran is this week. Well, those teams at home, blindly betting them, 45% against the spread. On the road, a positive, not quite as good as the positive of the left-hand side of the chart, but still 61 and 47, 57%. So again, not going to blindly play these plays, but when you have these situations on the road of a bad team as a favorite or a good team as a dog, they've been a very positive ATS situation. Our chart number 2, division teams in the second meeting. I went back to 2015, and if you see the chart, the left-hand side, the headline is previous meeting. So P:\WHF means they won game one of a division game as a home favorite, won as a home dog, lost as a home favorite, lost as a home dog. On the right-hand side, you see the favorite and the dog columns. So obviously, if you won your first game at home, you're either an away favorite or away dog in the second game. Same thing if you lost a home favorite or home dog, you are obviously now an away favorite or an away dog in the second meeting. This one shocked me. If you blindly bet the favorite in the second meeting, take a look at those records, guys. 50%, 100%, only 6-0, 64.5%, and 4-3, 57%. Does that make sense? I think it does. I never even dawned on me. I always looked for the subsets without just the basic favorites in the second game of division foe are a positive. Dogs are a negative in the second game. And you think about it, the season progresses early in the season, everyone's healthier, you're playing an opponent, and you get many more variables, upsets, losing as a favorite, and so on. But in the second meeting, later on in the season, those teams that are favorites have obviously played significantly better. And again, the records show it is legitimate. Blindly betting the favorite in the second game of the division meeting has been a solid play. Worst number on the board, teams that lost the first game as a home dog and are now an away dog, they've gone 50, 57-3, 46.7%. So no horrible numbers, but again, a chart that you want to keep for the rest of the year as these division opponents are now playing their second meeting. Again, this chart goes back to 2015. I want to thank everyone so much. If you took advantage of my 5% this last week, I had Hawaii and San Jose State over the total, an easy winner, cashed in the third quarter. My college football 5%, now 11-2, 85%. I will have one this weekend. It will be loaded by Thursday night. If you sign up for the Weekend Warrior, you will get that play immediately as soon as I load it, plus all of Saturday's college football, all of Sunday's NFL, and if I have an NFL play on Monday, you'll get it as well. The college football 5% by itself, $35. The Weekend Warrior, just $14 more. And I told you I cashed my 5% in college football last week. Last year, I was number 2 in college football. This year, I am number 1 the last 30 days in college football on a 14-6, 80% run. Try out the Weekend Warrior. You'll be glad you did. As I said, 3 super systems. First, the Panthers. You want to talk about a team that's up and down? They lose 30-0. And then what happens last week? They win as a double-digit dog on the road. Well, guess what? Teams since 1991 that are off an away win as a double-digit dog, like the Panthers are this week, have only gone 25, 54-2, 32% against the spread. I have 3 more systems that are all 79% or higher. Before I get to those, one favor. Hit that like button, and if you're not following Wager Talk TV, give it a follow. As soon as I load these videos, you'll be notified that they're available. All the Wager Talk handicappers I talk to thoroughly enjoy doing these videos. By you hitting the like button, by you following Wager Talk, it allows us to continue to do this free content day in and day out through the football season, college basketball season, and NBA. I'll be starting some NBA and college basketball TNA videos as well within the next week, so stay tuned. But again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to watch this video. Hit that like button, and let's finish this off with 3 super NFL systems. The Detroit Lions have not lost many games. Since 2015, away favorites of -4 or higher that are off a loss as a home favorite, and their opponent is also off a loss. Those teams like the Detroit Lions are 38, 10, and 3, 79.2%. Again, let me repeat that. The team is off a loss as a home favorite. They're an away favorite of 4 or more, and they're playing a team that also lost last week, 38 and 10, 79%. And oh yeah, by the way, I stole this from my son's Twitter this morning. The Detroit Lions are 12-0 against the spread after a loss, and they've covered those games by 12.8 points per game. The Raiders overtime loss burned me. I'll talk about that more in 1 minute. But if an NFL team is off an overtime game and they have 4 days of rest or less, and their opponent is not off an overtime game, that's simple. You think those teams get worn out off an overtime game, short week? Guess what? They certainly do. Teams like the Raiders, since 2002, 4 ATS wins, 24 ATS losses. That is 14.3%. A clear system to fade the Raiders. Again, off an overtime game, doesn't matter if they won or lost, 4 days of rest or less, and their opponent, not off an overtime game, 4 and 24, 14.3% against the spread. And the system that I just mentioned, why I was pissed about the Raiders. Well, last week I used the Raiders under the total. Why? Well, because both teams were off a bye and the total was under 51. Well, prior to last week, the system was 115-1 over under. Now it's 215-1 over under. The Raiders did go over with this system last week, but I do want to remind you that game was 0-0 late into the second quarter. It was 6-3 at halftime. It was 16-13 with 4 minutes left. They score 17 points the last 4 minutes of regulation and 10 points in overtime to go over the total. When those are the way you lose a game, that's the type of system you want to pay attention to. So again, the over-under system, 2 overs, 15 unders in 1 push. That's an 88% to the under, and it's simply this. Both teams are off a bye. The total, under 51 points. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at CalSportsLV. Hit that like button and sign up for my Weekend Warrior today. College football 5%, 11-2, 82%. College football number 2 last year, number 1 the last 30 days, 14-6, 80%. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend of football, and I'll be back next week with some more NFL TNA.
Coming off a best bet sweep in college football week 10. College football week 11 is upon us. We've got more of those barking dogs. Of course, we're going to break down those top 25 games. Get a little look from behind the computer screen in the steam room from VR. Marco's Deli still rocking and rolling. If you guys have been following along there, another 6-2-1 week. Man, 27-17 on the season. And of course, we're going to try to sweep those best bets again up next on Bet On It. Kelly Stewart here, VR in the middle, Marco sitting there in the third chair. Guys, this has been a really great week outside of my Kansas State Wildcats, and we're going to try to run it back here with the TV games. Marco, this is a game that I'm going to be getting involved in, but I'm really curious to see your thoughts on this Big 12 matchup, 12 p.m. Eastern. Number 8, BYU, catching 10.5. Now, I know this is one that's kind of went back and forth. At Texas Tech, number 9 in the country, 53.5. And I lied VR is going to touch on this game. I'm just so excited, you guys. Like when you have that great week, like I did opening line report with Teddy on Monday morning. If you guys haven't seen that yet. And it was so hard for me because I'm like, what do you mean, Teddy? I had a 4-in-1 week. What do you mean, Teddy? Like when you have a good week, you're giddy. You're excited for that next week coming up. And right now I'm excited. If you guys are excited, drop it in the comment section. Say something nice maybe for a change because we kicked ass last week. We're going to do it again this week. VR, tell me you like Texas Tech here.
Yeah, and right now in college football, bet on it, 23-7, 23-7 overall, and 9-1 on these TV games. Now, I haven't released a premium play here, but I trust my power ratings, and I know I've gotten pushback in the comment section, but so far, I think we're ahead. Again, not every time is the team that I say is the better power rated team, like they're going to lose that next week. But what I'm trying to explain is they're overvalued. They're higher ranked than they should be. And as we've seen with a lot of these teams, the Miamis, the Georgia Techs, they'll start dropping in the rankings like they should. BYU, another perfect example. Now, this isn't a bet on Texas Tech. This is a fade of BYU because I do think Texas Tech is also a little bit higher than they should be on the rankings. But the difference is BYU's just way out there. In fact, BYU's not a top 10 team. BYU's not a top 20 team. BYU's barely a top 30 team power rating wise. And that's what we're looking to fade here. Now, the negative for Texas Tech is the recency bias. That's what's held me off from firing. They're coming off back-to-back wins where they scored 40 plus and outperformed the betting market. When a team does that, you expect a correction. That's what's kept me off Texas Tech. Had they not blown out Kansas State, had they not shut out Oklahoma State, I think we'd be laying 7.5, 8 here, and then we'd be firing a 4% play. But they got it up to double digits. That's keeping me off of getting to the window. And I think it's enticing BYU money, which I really do think is the wrong side. Listen, BYU's continues to not just win, but outperform the betting market. And I always talk about that. It's very efficient. It's going to correct. And when you're winning like BYU is, and not just covering games, but winning outright as an underdog, like that's really outperforming. It's very hard to sustain that. So for me, it's a fade of BYU here. I like the Texas Tech side. Again, more about BYU real quickly. Strength of schedule, barely top 50th strength of schedule. And with this easy schedule like that, don't even have a top 20 offense, barely have a top 20 defense, barely have a top 20 offense. Lay the points here with Texas Tech. They should win this one by 3+ touchdowns. I haven't gotten to the window yet, but I do like the Texas Tech side.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get to the window on the Texas Tech side. We'll kind of see. You mentioned that BYU money. All jokes aside, my dad, when I talked to him this morning, he loves BYU. You guys know what to do. This reminds me of last week's matchup when I leaned Cincinnati early in the week, and Marco said, "Not so fast, Kelly. You need to be paying attention to this Utah team." I'm going to say this. Yes, Texas Tech blew out Kansas State last week, but yes, be wary. That fourth quarter was a little bit more indicative of the defense being a little bit tired and K-State basically puking all over themselves. Marco D'Angelo, you're going to have to wait a few more minutes because I'm going to break down the 3:30 p.m. Eastern game number 3, Texas A&M -7.5 at number 19, Missouri. 48.5 here is the total right now on the odds logic screen. Kind of different thought process here, right? I know that I've been saying I've been wanting to fade Texas A&M several times this year. And I haven't really found great spots. There was a couple of different opportunities where they did not cover, but Texas A&M is looking like a solid team like they've been paying for the last decade. But this Mizzou team, not only as a home underdog, 17-9, they are on an epic run here. 22-9-1 against the spread, coming off their bye. You guys remember they ended up losing that game to Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago, despite having over 100 yards as an edge, right? So we want to kind of look for those teams. Yes, the third-ranked Aggies. Everybody wants to talk about them. but VR talks about power ratings. I'll get with him here in a minute to see where he has the Aggies rated, but they're definitely not a top 5 team. Missouri's run defense, I think, is going to be able to stifle that offense. We're going to kind of keep an eye on it. Colin Klein's name's been thrown out a lot, not just for Kansas State, but I've heard Oklahoma State, Arkansas for head coaching jobs. Eventually, some of that chatter kind of gets in the way of some of these teams, so keep in mind there. I haven't got to the window with Mizzou money line just yet, but no, they're on my long list to possibly make my 3-team underdog parlay. VR, really quick before we get to Marco, Can you tell me where you have A&M rated in your power ratings?
A&M's not in my top 10 yet. They have not cracked the top 10. I'm telling you now. I would make Penn State favored over Texas A&M on a neutral field. I really would. I would make Michigan a pick 'em against them. I would make USC a pick 'em against them. Like that's where they are, and that's moving them up as well. I actually have Missouri in my top 20. So Missouri's not all that far behind Texas A&M. I'm tempted to get to the window with Missouri too. It's only a matter of time before the wheels fall off for Texas A&M. They're not finishing this season undefeated. If they do, they're just going to get blown out in the playoffs anyway by a real team.
There you go. Some of those early playoff lines are out, and some of them are a little more shocking. We'll get to one of those during the Barking Dog segment. Marco, is this dog barking? Long list, I looked to try to make a case for LSU, unranked, catching double digits at number 4 Alabama. The total is 50.5. We all know that little situation, teams firing their head coach. Are they on your radar?
Well, Kelly, normally that's exactly where I would start in a game like this, is looking at the team that fired the coach. And especially they had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. The new interim coach takes over. But in this instance, there's 2 reasons why I'm not going to do it. All right. LSU is sitting at 5-3. Okay. They came into the season, and I'll be honest, I was high on them, and I did have them in that first game against Clemson. We had a large play on them. We liked them a lot. I thought they were a legitimate national championship contender. The quarterback has underperformed. The offense in general has underperformed all year. In my opinion, they waited too long to make this change. And granted, when you have a coach like Brian Kelly, you're not going to fire him immediately, but you saw the signs of this all season. And then after the Texas A&M game, when they just absolutely had a pathetic second half, they had the lead at half, and they came out and got the doors blown off them. They had no choice. It's too late in the season. How does this team get excited? Yeah, they're 5-3. They can still go to a bowl game. What bowl game are they going to go to? How do you sell that to a team that really thought they would be playing in the playoffs and have a chance for the national championship? That's why I'm not buying the coaching angle, jumping on the team there. The other reason is Alabama had a bye week as well. And going into the bye week, they had a scare. They played South Carolina. And I got a lot of grief when I gave out South Carolina that week as a play on shows. A lot of pushback, because how could you go against Alabama? And it was the spot. It was a horrible spot for Alabama, coming off a big game the week before, then going into their bye week and having LSU coming out of the bye. They were going to look past South Carolina. South Carolina had been losing. And what happened? South Carolina took them to the fourth quarter. It was late. The game was tied before Alabama got the last touchdown and won by 7 late in the fourth quarter. They're going to be focused for this game. That's why I'm not stepping in front of them. I'm going to go ahead, take Alabama. I'm going to lay the number here. Yes, LSU, they've lived on their defense all year. But guys, let's be honest. This defense has been struggling lately. Last 2 games, they gave up 31 and 49 points. Their rush defense, and that's important. When a team's got a lead and, laying points, you want that team that's got the lead to be able to run the ball and be successful. Well, the last 4 games, the LSU rush defense has given up 166, 193, 239, and 224. They're getting worse. Let's go ahead, lay it with Alabama here.
Oh, that was kind of a shocker. I totally expected that situational spot from Marco. Very good analysis. VR, let's get into your Steam Room. Guys, if you're new here, you can catch VR Steam Room on Sundays before NFL, but you can catch a mini version of it on Saturdays for college football with me on Wager Talks Last Call, where we go through a ton of college football info leading up until kickoff. I hope you guys have your odds logic screens open, because VR is going to run through this one rapid fire.
Yep, just going to run down some of the moves that already I've seen confirmation. And what I mean is multiple groups on the same side without resistance. That's the key. Especially in college football, where you don't really have the look aheads that you do in the NFL. So let's start off with the Saturday action. We'll pass on the weekday action. Drop down the Army against Temple, because anytime that's gotten the bet up to above 7, you've seen some take back on the Temple side. That's one of those where it looks like the real move's on the Temple, just hoping it gets bet up, that the Army side gets bet up. Drop down to Stanford against North Carolina. On the opener got hit at +9, +8.5, +8, all the way down to where it sits now at about a touchdown. So a lot of love on Stanford against North Carolina. Indiana over Penn State. This is one of the more one-sided public games as well. Indiana is one of those teams that is getting love every week at the window. It's up over 2 touchdowns now. That was sharp money, but rest assured, it's the public that's pushing it up. Other team, I'm bringing up Ohio State. They're just getting bet blindly every single week. And usually what happens with the betting syndicates when they see that is they'll bet those teams as well and then middle it. Because betting Ohio State at -28.5 when you know it's going to get above 30, because by Saturday, once the betting public starts getting involved on Ohio State, this will get into the 30s, 31 possibly or so. That's when you'll see some take back on the underdog. So be careful with the top 1, 2, and 3 teams that in the rankings, because they're well aware that those are the teams that are going to attract the most public money. Drop down to Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan, that got hit on the money line. Also 1.5 on the Eastern Michigan side. And what else was sticking out real fast? Sorry. Oh, where was that? Yes, Arkansas State against Southern Miss, because I saw money line action. That's what I wanted to pass along. When you see them sprinkling at the same time. So taking the Arkansas State plus the points, and on the money line, home dog there against Southern Miss. I like that side as well. And we'll end it with Oregon State, one of the late games on the board that got action at the opener. Haven't even seen resistance up over 20. So when it got bet below 20, usually when it gets up over 20, you'll see some take back. Has not happened yet. So legit move on Oregon State. Tomorrow, pay attention to your odds logic screen, or at the very least, the free odds screen at Wager Talk. The totals will get hit throughout the day. You'll be able to confirm some. So you should already go in with the totals you like, under or over. You start seeing the market go in that direction. Get the best of the number before it's gone. So that's going to do it for this week's college football steam. Hope you do some damage.
All right, we're going to get right into those barking dogs. And this is one that was on my radar as well, Marco. Auburn, why is another team that fired their coach last week on your radar with a shot to win outright?
All right, at the sake of sounding like I'm bipolar, now I am going to take the team that fired the coach, because
Marco, are you off your meds again?
Again?
Yeah.
Listen, the comment section last week asked that.
Well, they did, and it was my picks in the NFL. They were, very concerned that I was, off my meds. Well, I can tell you what, not that I actually need the meds, but the one pill that I definitely don't need, I don't need the little blue pill this week after Carolina come home outright last week. So definitely there. We're okay. So thanks for everybody worried about the meds there. But with this one, let's go ahead. We are going to look to the firing of the head coach, because this will be a spark. We have that in play to start with. Hugh Freeze, this has been a disappointing year. This team has lost all these games in a row. They have been in games and found ways to lose them. But this is where I jump in. You get that change. You get that jolt of adrenaline, spark, whatever you want to call it, because the players are going to play hard this week, because they want to prove it wasn't them. It was the coach. It wasn't them. We're going to get that out of Auburn this week. But we have a second side to the story here, Kelly, the Vanderbilt side. Is there ever been a better classic spot to say lose the same game twice? Vanderbilt was getting their doors blown off on Saturday at Texas. What a dose of reality for them. But then all of a sudden, and I don't, and I watched it and I still don't believe what I saw because I was holding a Texas -3 ticket and got the push. The situation with Vanderbilt coming all the way back, converting 2 2-point conversions. And the one, I still say he didn't break the plane. I don't know what they were looking at, but they ended up with a push. You come all the way back like that and almost win the game. And now, all of the hype that you had in the Cinderella season, that was the dream crusher game for me, losing that one to Texas for Vanderbilt. I always say also, when you got a dog that plays their guts out and comes up short and they go from a dog to the favorite the next week, I want no part of the favorite. That all of that lines me up on Auburn here. And then you got a ranked team versus an unranked team playing at home and lines less than a touchdown. All of your alarms should be going off in your house that something's wrong there. They're begging you to take that home favorite that's ranked under the touchdown. I ain't buying it. I'm taking Auburn plus the points. Let's call it Auburn 23-21. Little upset for the new coach.
Ooh. All right. This is the name of the game here on Barking Dogs, where we're rooting for underdogs to win the game outright. And you guys both won yours last week.
Yep.
I did not, but that's another story for another time. VR, you have a team that is also on my long list here on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Tell me why you think Wake Forest has a shot to win this game.
Yeah, put it on the short list. 7-3 on the dogs. 5 of those came in on the money line, including Penn State, UCLA over Penn State, if you remember back in the day. Now, with that said, I know it's boring, but this is what's been making me money over and over and over again. I try to keep it simple. I don't try to make it harder than it needs to be. Don't need to be the smartest guy in the room. I have a really, really, really good set of power ratings that I trust from one gentleman, and it's been making me college football money year in and year out and putting me at number one up over 130 units so far in 2025. And here's what they tell me about this Virginia team. They're as phony as you can get. When I look at the rankings and I saw that Virginia's ranked 14th, let me tell you where they're power rated. They're not in the top 10, that's for sure. Fortunately, they're not, thank God, they're not in the ranking top 10. They're not in the top 15. They're not in the top 20, not in the top 25, not in the top 30, not in the top 35, not in the top 40, not in the top 45, not in the top 50. They just cracked the top 55. That's where Virginia sits power rating wise. There are 50 teams in college football that would be favored over Virginia on a neutral field. That's the truth. That doesn't mean the books would make those 50 teams favored, because I'll keep repeating it. The book's job is to manage risk so that they profit. It's not to predict outcomes of sporting events. That's not what they do, okay? Virginia has the 70th toughest strength of schedule. And yet, with that 70th toughest strength of schedule, they're barely a top 50 offense. They're barely a top 70 defense. They just cracked the top 70. And they've just happened to get lucky with a nice, easy schedule. They've had 2 games that were difficult for them. Florida State and Louisville, where they were underdogs. Every other game, they were favored. They did what they're supposed to. They won the game. When they were a dog, first game of the season or second game of the season, NC State, they lost. They won 2 games that were hard for them, where they were dogs. Louisville and Florida State. If you click that box score, what you'll see that both Louisville and Florida State dominated Virginia, destroyed them. If you just looked at the box score, you would think Virginia got annihilated. But then you'll find out one of those 2 teams fumbled the ball 6 times and had 2 interceptions. The other team fumbled the ball 4 times and had 2 interceptions. They got lucky that those opponents played their absolute worst brand of football. And don't go telling me that the defense created those turnovers. because we're talking about the 70th best defense efficient-wise in college football. So they're not creating nothing is what they're doing. Give me Wake Forest plus the points. I don't even like Wake Forest. They're a shit team too, but they're catching points from a real overvalued team. Fade Virginia, sprinkle the money line. Wake Forest gets the money. What are they? Plus 6.5. Buy it up to 7. Don't lay more than 124. If you got to lay more than 124 for the half point, don't do it. Just take the 6.5. We're not even going to need that. But, we're in the business of placing good bets. So if you could buy the half point, you do it. Up to 124 only to get the 7.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Wake Forest is a shit team, and that is my genuine.
Sorry.
Listen, I don't mind betting mediocre teams, but betting on bad teams is so incredibly frustrating.
It is.
And we talk about betting on numbers, not teams. And I understand that is a lot of what we do. And, catching 6.5, 7 with these bad teams is fine, but wanting them to win outright is a lot more difficult, right?
It is.
To get that backdoor cover is not what I want. I want to see a team give me 4 quarters of effort, and you think we're going to get that from Wake Forest, even though they're a shit team.
Yep.
Okay.
No, you're right. And honestly, I shouldn't even think that, they can't win, because I'm placing it because I think that I had that mistake last week in the NFL, where because I like Minnesota and we had that same discussion, and you're like, you think they could win the game? And I'm like, I don't think so. You know what I mean?
And then they did.
Exactly. Exactly. So you shouldn't overthink it. If you like the underdog and your work's pointing you to the underdog, then they probably have a shot, unless they're like a 30-point dog, and you should sprinkle.
Yeah, well, you did call UCLA over Penn State, so that's
you get lucky sometimes.
This is probably the biggest underdog to ever cash in the Barking Dogs segment. All right, I'm going to take Iowa plus 6.5. We're all going with the under touchdown underdogs here, and bottom line, I'm taking Iowa, the better defense here. 8-1 against the spread as a single-digit Big Ten home underdog in their last 9 tries. 6-1 against the spread this year. Now, I understand Oregon had a nice road win already this year in the Big Ten at Penn State there in overtime, but they also lost to Indiana right afterwards at home by double digits. That 3-point loss to Iowa State is far in the rearview mirror for the Hawkeyes. And if you remember, they took that same Indiana team to the wire and had multiple shots to win it. Gronowski, 68% on the season, and has rushed for over 225 yards with 8 touchdowns. This kid is a great quarterback, and normally we see these guys that stand in the pocket too long for Iowa, but with Brian Ferentz gone, this Iowa offense is different. And I think that they have an opportunity to not only cover this game, but win it there in Kinnick. Marco D'Angelo, the Deli, as I mentioned to start the show, has just been rocking and rolling all season long. Guys, if you like the Deli, you can watch it here on the college football edition of Bet On the NFL edition of Bet On, or on Fridays.
Yum.
We put out an entire Deli segment standalone here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Last week was 4-1, 27-17 on the season. Marco, we got a little sandwich spot here for the Florida Gators.
Yeah, Kelly, the Deli has been great this season. 6-2-1 winning week-wise for it. And the NFL play on the show, 8-1 this year. So be sure to check out the Deli. It'll be out on Thursday. And for the sandwich game this week, Kelly, man, we've had a lot of games involving fired coaches this week, and this is going to be another one. And last week when we talked about Florida, we didn't know how Florida was going to react to the coach being fired, because it's probably the only time that I can remember a coach being fired after winning a football game, but that's what happened to Billy Napier. They fired him. They had their bye week, and they had a big game coming against Georgia. I didn't know how that team would respond. Well, they did respond, and they played their guts out, and they took Georgia to the limit, losing 24-20. Now, for bettors in that game, if you had Georgia or you had the over, I feel for you, because if you didn't see it, they took it. The guy broke around the end and went down at the 1 yard line at the end of the game with a minute to play to run out the clock. They would have walked in for the touchdown, for the cover, or walked in for sending the game over as well. So that was a crazy ending last week. But here's the reality. Florida did show up to play. But now they're at 2-5, and they had that initial game after firing the coach. They're in a mammoth sandwich spot here. Coming off that game, I can't look to play them this week because at 2-5, what's to get excited about for this team? The only time they're going to get excited is going to be playing a game like they did last week against the big name Georgia, where they could play spoiler, or when they play the rivalry game at the end of the season against Florida State. I think they are a mail it in the rest of the way. They're not going to be excited going to play Kentucky in this game. And even though Florida's having a horrible season, for a team like Kentucky to beat that name, Florida, that's a big deal for them. And Kentucky they broke their 4-game losing streak last week. They won as a 12-point dog at Auburn, the game that got Hugh Freeze fired. So as a home dog, they're live. Explain to me how Florida is favored in this game. They're favored by their name, not by the way they're playing. I got to take Kentucky in this one. I am going to grab the points. Not going to need them. I see Kentucky winning this one 24-20. Sandwich game of the week. Let's take the Kentucky Wildcats.
Marco, I just realized my best bet is also a sandwich spot. I had to look up something really quick and I thought, let's see if Marco likes that one. But we're going to get into these so-called best bets that we swept last week so easily. Nebraska, damn it, had opportunities to win that game. But that's okay. They got the cover, and that's what matters. VR, a team that you think is going to get the cover this week is the Kansas Jayhawks.
Rock Chalk Jayhawks on the road, baby. Yeah. Now all the talk is you're going to start hearing about the bowl eligibility. And a narrative about this around this game is Arizona needs this win, bowl eligibility, because it doesn't get much easier than that. Their opponents remaining have a combined 23-13 record. So they're going to be underdogs, in other words, after this game. So this is a big game, and you're being asked to pay a premium because of that. The bottom line is this is as close to a coin flip as you're going to get. And Arizona's getting just way too much respect for home field advantage. Granted, they're 4-1 at home this year. Yeah, 4-1 at home, 1-2 on the road. And I've talked about it throughout this season. That, to me, is a strong home field advantage currently. Because, again, we take an average when we try to determine what a team's home field advantage is. And you look over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, what's the point differential at home? You create a home point advantage. But year by year, teams differ. So I like to look at recent. Is it really a home field advantage in 2025? And obviously it is. They played a lot better at home than they have on the road. The problem is the price is just too high. When I look at my power ratings, these teams are very comparable to each other. I have Arizona as the 44th power rated team in the country, and I have Kansas as the 46th power rated team in the country. Kansas had a tougher strength of schedule. Offense, almost identical efficient wise. Defense, give the edge to Arizona, but that's offset by the strength of schedule, that Kansas had the tougher strength of schedule. This is why I continue to come to the conclusion that this game is a coin flip out of home, factor in home field advantage. And the most I'm going to give Arizona for home field advantage, 2 points, 2.2 points, maybe not 2.5, maybe 2.5 at the most. Again, getting more than a field goal puts me on the Kansas side. I like both these teams also, especially Kansas ending that losing streak. They lost to Kansas State. They lost to Texas Tech, beat up on Oklahoma State, got that confidence, and heading into Arizona. I think they keep it close till the very end with a chance to win it. Just don't turn the ball over. You'll get me a best bet winner. I released on the subscribers as a 4%, so got to the window already with them. We took +5. They're good down to +4, but I wouldn't wait too long because it's a sharp side.
All right, VR, at 4, 4.5, a little bit on the odds logic screen. How much percentage would you put on the money line? Would you do 95.5?
90-10, 90-10.
90-10? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I do like Kansas. They're a little too short to make my underdog parlay, but I will be joining you plus the points. Marco D'Angelo, you're going to be a chalk eating weasel this week. I was hoping we all just went with more underdogs because that's just my favorite. But you think this is a good spot to take a team laying 9.5 here against, I wasn't even looking at this game. Why Liberty?
Why Liberty? Well, we talk about buying low and selling high, but speaking of buying, Kelly, we got to do a little promotion here before the best bet. We got a special going this week involving me at Wager Talk. And if you like the plays the way we're doing them here on the show this year and you want to get on board for my premium plays for my clients, this is the week to do it. You know, we've been running that $49 Weekend Warrior package. That's still available. But guys, you want to get a full 7 days for $15 more? Yeah, we're offering this week. I do it every year. It's my birthday week, and we sell the week for my birthday price. That means you can get the entire week, 7 days of service for just $64 this week. That's just $15 more than the Weekend Warrior. And guys, we are on a roll. Last 6 days since last Thursday, we're taping here on Wednesday. We're on an 11-2 run for our clients. We've made them over $2,500 during that run, and we hit another 5% play. I won't mention who it was because Kelly will have Dan shut my mic off, but it was a 43-20 winner last week, laying 7 in the Big 12. You can figure it out from there. We're now 35-16 on those 5% plays. You'll get one of those this week as well, and they sell for $35 by themselves. So the $64 package is the way to go. Join me for Marco's birthday bash this week. Now for this best bet, we've got Liberty, and we're going to lay the 7.5 here. And this is a situation with Liberty. Going into the season, every sharp I know had Liberty running away with Conference USA this year. But a 4-game losing streak to start the season derailed them early on. They have now won 3 in a row, and they are playing at the level that brought them all of the attention at the beginning of the season that we thought they would be playing with. The turnaround comes thanks to Liberty's defense, as they fixed what was wrong, and that was the rush defense. In their first 5 games, they were allowing an average of 164 yards per game. Over the last 3 games, they've allowed an average of just 92 yards per game. Now, here's the thing. That bad start at the beginning of the season, a lot of it was out of conference. In conference, they're sitting at 3-1. They're only 1 game behind the 2 conference leaders who are at 4-0. To me, this is an absolute buy low spot on Liberty at 7.5. My numbers say it should be closer to 10. And too often what happens is people don't adjust their numbers correctly as they go through the season. They look at a season average as far as numbers go, and they draw their conclusion. You can't compare what somebody did in September to what they did in October, especially when it's out of conference schedules where you're playing those games in September. And a lot of times you've got teams that have inflated numbers because they play little sisters of the poor, or you have teams that play worse because they play above their heads in the month of September. Liberty's flying under the radar, playing their best ball right now. I'm riding them this week. I've got Liberty rolling over Missouri State.
All right, I need the comment section to get ready. I've got something really important I need all of you guys to do. Hit your cap locks button and type "Happy Birthday, Marco" with about 18 exclamation points. Happy early birthday, Marco D'Angelo.
Thank you.
Usually when we were back in studio, I would bring you a cake, but it's kind of pointless now because I don't need to eat the cake, so I'm not bringing it even as a prop. We're going to take a nice underdog, and this was a team that it's on my list. I like them plus the points. I haven't gotten to the window with the money line. I need a little bit more time before Wednesday morning to decide if they can win this game outright. And that team, of course, is UConn. If you guys remember, we took UConn just a few short weeks ago. I think it was week 2, and they blew a double-digit lead to Syracuse. That was the first pain of the underdog parlay this year. But Jim Mora, still very good. against the ACC, 8-3-1 against the spread in his tenure there in Connecticut. And if you remember, we bet against UConn at Delaware. And that was a double-digit side. I don't know if they can win the game outright, and they did. So UConn back in this spot where they're catching points here at home. And oh, by the way, this is a massive sandwich spot for Duke. Duke last week. Yep, that's right. Clemson next week. Oh, just little old Virginia on deck. That's right. And hey, I really like UConn's quarterback. 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on the season against Duke's 113th ranked passing defense. Something to keep in mind there. Again, Jim Moore have been great against the spread, particularly as a home underdog, 14-7. Last year, they won 3 games in this spot. And just a few short weeks ago, they were able to go and beat Boston College. Maybe they get their revenge on this Duke team last year. If you guys remember, Duke was a huge favorite headed in to this game and hit that long field goal to win 26-21. Duke kind of ran the clock out after that. Man, did UConn fight this team tough. I expect more fight from them here on Saturday. Give me the 9.5 here with the Huskies, and check out my 3-team underdog parlay to see if we end up betting them on the money line. Bring everybody back in. We always appreciate the comments from you guys. Love us. You hate us. You love our bets. You hate our bets. We don't care. Just get those keyboard fingers ready. Marco and VR had a lot of fun last week reading the comments.
Oh, I loved it.
This coming back, it just makes
Watch the NFL show. Me and Marco got some revenge coming.
Yeah.
Oh, even better. Yes. If you guys do want to check out that NFL show, it will be up on the Wager Talk YouTube channel right here. And of course, the mega show you never want to miss. 2 straight hours of bet on it.
I can't believe it is college football week number 10. Welcome for my college football TNA. The week starting Tuesday, November the 4th. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to look at how 0, 1, and 2 loss teams do towards the end of the season if they are off a loss. I'm going to give you the top ATS records and over-under records, as well as the poorest in conference games. And we're going to finish off with 4 college football super systems, including an 80% fade on one of this week's SEC games. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am Ralph Michaels. This is the Wager Talk College Football TNA Report. Let's get right to our first chart. You'll see that this is for games 9, 10, and 11 till we get to this latter stage of the season. You look to the left. These are teams with 0 losses, 1 loss if they're off a loss their last game, 2 losses if they're off a loss their last game, and then I have them broken down into home favorites, home dogs, away favorites, and away dogs. I will post this on Twitter at CalSportsLV. There's a lot of information here. It's not one of the easiest charts to break down on videos here, but let's walk through some of the scenarios. Let's look at teams that are undefeated in game 9. As a home favorite or an away dog, they've been a fade. As a home dog, they've gone 7-2, and as an away favorite, 56%. Teams with 1 loss game number 9. Again, home favorites and away favorites, a fade. Home dogs and away dogs, a positive. And if you're in game number 9 and you have 2 losses, that means you were 7-1, but you lost your last game, so now you have 2 losses. Home teams, very poor. Home favorites, one of the worst numbers on the chart. So teams in game 9 off a loss, now with 2 losses, only 20, 42, and 4, 32% against the spread. When you get to game 11, take a look at that bottom right part of the chart. With 0 losses, 1 loss, or 2 losses, teams on the road, all 6 categories negatives for teams that are away favorites or away dogs. Someone had reached out to me in the chat and said, hey, can you give us a breakdown of who are the best and worst conference teams against the spread and over under? Well, how about this? Yes, we are week number 10, but there is no team in college football that has a 100% ATS record versus conference folks. There are no teams in college football with a 0% ATS record in conference games. No teams are 100% to the over. No teams are 100% to the under. So not quite parity, but no one has run the table in conference action. Let me run down the top conference teams against the spread. These teams are all 4-1, 80% ATS. I'm just going to run through them quickly alphabetically. Arkansas State, Boise, Central Michigan, Coastal Carolina, Duke, Hawaii, Iowa, Maryland, Memphis, Miami of Ohio, Mississippi State, Northwestern, North Texas, Troy, and Vanderbilt. So what teams in conference action are 1-4 against the spread, cashing only 20% of their conference games this year? Air Force, Boston College, Bowling Green, and Buffalo. Cal, Delaware, Florida State, and Fresno. Louisiana Monroe, Penn State, South Alabama, Sam Houston, TCU, and USC. Now, there's only 4 teams that are 4-1, 80% to the over in conference action. Coastal Carolina, again, they were also 4-1 against the spread. They're also 4-1 over under. North Texas, Temple, and Troy, all 4-1 to the over. 5 teams are 1-4 over under, meaning 80% to the under. They are Army, Fresno, SMU, Washington, and Wyoming. Guys, I want to thank you if you were on board for another 5% college football winner last week on Hawaii over the total, an easy winner, cashed in the third quarter. My college football 5%, now 11-2, 85%. Last year in college football, I was number 2 at Wager Talk. This year, over the last 30 days, number 1 in college football, 14-6, 80%. I will have another 5% college football play. Take advantage of the weekend warrior. Get all of my Saturday college football, including that 5%, which is $35 by itself. Get my Sunday NFL. And if I have a Monday night NFL play, you'll receive it as well. $49, or if you just want that college football 5%, it will be loaded by Thursday evening. It will be $35, WT.buzz/RM. And before I get to the systems, one favor, guys. First, I want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to watch this video. You watching the videos, you liking the videos, you following Wager Talk on YouTube TV and all the social media networks allows us to continue to increase the number of free play videos we do and all the free content that all the Wager Talk handicappers provide. Hit that like button, follow Wager Talk TV, and follow Wager Talk on all their social media networks. Over 300,000 people follow Wager Talk. You should be part of that group. All right, system number 1. College football road teams that have won back-to-back games by 28 plus points, and their opponent allowed 35 points or more last game. Strong sample size, 92-51, 64.3% against the spread. So what road team off back-to-back blowouts and their opponent, gave up 35 plus points? Well, there are 2 teams that it applies to, James Madison and Indiana. System number 2. you have a conference favorite. They have revenge. They lost as a favorite against this opponent the last time they played them. And they have lost overall 4 straight times to this opponent. This goes back to 2006. The ATS record, 62-27, 70% against the spread. So what conference favorite has lost 4 straight to this opponent, including being a favorite in their last meeting? It applies to one team, the Texas State Bobcats. Again, 62-27, 70% against the spread. That system says to play on Texas State. BYU and Texas Tech, what a matchup. Well, I've got a system for that game. Away dogs of 3 or more that have at least 7 wins, and both teams are undefeated. Pretty simple system. You're both playing great, 7 straight wins. You're both obviously ranked. Well, those conference away dogs of 3 or more, like BYU, have only gone 10-26 against the spread. That is 28%. System 3 says to fade BYU. And the fourth and final system. It is an 80% fade on an SEC team. Which team is off an away win? They scored 12 points or less. And now they are either a dog up to a touchdown or a favorite up to -3 touchdowns and a total of over 42. That would be Kentucky. Kentucky is off an away win. They scored less than 12 points. They are a favorite up to 21 or a dog up to +7. The total is over 42, going back to 1992. Hasn't happened often, but the teams like Kentucky are 7-28-2, only 20% against the spread. So system 1 says to play on James Madison in Indiana. System 2 says play on Texas State. System 3, fade BYU. System 4, fade Kentucky. Enjoy a great weekend of college football. Don't miss my 5% on Saturday. Follow me on Twitter @CalSportsLV and have a great weekend of college football.